Now let's turn our ray into an actual ray, or turn our gizmo into a ray, so that we can actually have our ladybug turn around, and we'll do a little bit of cleaning up and refactoring along the way. We're going to open up our ladybug script, and the first thing I want to do is modify our gizmo code where we're figuring out what bottom corner we want to use. Let's turn that into a reusable method so that we don't have to copy and paste this code and this direction checking code and all of that. So first, we'll actually start by just copying and pasting it. I'm going to copy line 36 through 45, and then we're going to add a new method right below that returns back a vector2. I'm going to name this, I think, what do I want to call it? Like get down ray position, something like that. Let's go with that. Get down ray position, and then we'll paste in our code. What I want to do here is, instead of drawing a gizmo, I just want to return back one of these vector2s. So I'm going to delete out both of the gizmo lines here, and instead of assigning a vector2 here, I'm just going to replace this with the word return. So we'll return back a new vector2 that's off to the left if our direction is left, although we do have an error here saying that it can't find our bounds. So we're going to need to copy line 35 and paste it in here, and then replace the collider with the underscore collider, because here, well, actually, to be honest, this is going to be an issue, because if we just use the collider here, we're going to run into a problem of, in the gizmos, this may or may not work. So let's make it so that we can pass in a collider instead. We'll take a collider here as a parameter, and now our error is gone. Now the last thing we need to do to get rid of our error is make sure that we return something even or in all of our paths. Right now it's saying that not all code paths return a value. That's because if it's left, we return a new vector2. If it's right now we assign a variable. That's not what we want. We want to return that right variable, or that right offset. Now I don't need these braces here because there's only one thing happening in each of these lines. So I'm going to delete the brace. That's just shift delete to get rid of them all. Now I've got a ray position method that'll give me back a ray position, and I want to use it in my gizmos first. So I'll copy get down ray position, and I'll just put that, let's put it right here. I'll say var down offset, or down origin, let's call it down origin, equals get ray down ray position, and we'll pass in our collider. I'll delete out this bounds code and delete out everything except for that one gizmos.draw line. Shift delete, shift delete, shift delete, all the way until I've got it lined up, and then we'll replace bottom left with down, double click paste, and double click paste with down origin. Control K, Control D should fix up my formatting, and now I've got a method that I can use to get that downward ray position, and it should still draw that downward origin, or that downward ray in my gizmos. Let's just go double check it in gizmos, make sure that it still works, that it's still showing in the right position, that our refactor didn't break something when we extracted that code out into its own method. And if it is good, then we'll jump back in and we'll finish up with the ray casting. So we play, we should expect to see our character do exactly the same thing that it was doing right before, just moving back and forth and changing that ray position from the left to the right, but not actually using that ray yet. So let's see, we'll go into the scene view. Yep, it's still working fine. It's getting the position and it's swapping back and forth. So let's make the final change in our ladybug, which is going to happen down in our update. First, let's add a space here after the get down ray position and update. I don't like to have no space between methods. I always like to have one space, exactly one space actually, between each method. So in our update method, before we check to see if we've hit something off to the right or we've hit something off to the left, let's make sure that there's actually ground in front of us to continue walking. So we're going to add a couple new lines here. And first, we're going to just add in a Boolean variable for whether or not we can continue walking. We'll say bool can continue walking equals false. And if we don't find any ground in front of us, we'll never set that to true, and we'll just return. So let's say if we can't continue walking, if can continue walking is equal to false, then what do we want to do? Well, we want to switch directions. Let's copy all of this, line 66 through 68. We want to switch directions, flip the sprite render, and we don't want to break because we're not in a loop, but that's not what we're trying to do. Instead, we just want to return. So how do we set can continue walking to true? Well, we're going to need to do a raycast next. So we'll do that just like we did down here on line 63, but we'll do it on, 55. We'll say var down hits, this is going to be our downward hits, equals physics2d dot raycast all. And we'll give it our downward origin, which is going to be calculated from our get down ray position. So I can pass in get down ray position and give it our collider as the first parameter. And then for the second parameter, we'll give it a vector2.down. Oh, I need to add the underscore to our collider. That's why we've got an error here. And then finally, we'll give it a distance, which is our raycast distance. Now, personally, I like to split this method out and give it another parameter or another variable here so that it's a little bit more explicit and just spells out what we're doing here. And I'll do that by taking this get down ray position and just cutting it onto my clipboard, adding a new line and say var down origin equals and paste. Then I'll put down origin here, just so that it's a little bit more explicit. Again, works exactly the same, but I like to see the variables here. I can debug it a little bit better and to understand what's going on a little bit better. Now that I've got my down hits, we need to loop through them just like we did before. So say for each var hit in down hits, and we can't name this hits, by the way. It has to have a unique name so that it's not redefined down here. We could, but we'd have to remove this var part, and I like to use a separate name because I think it makes it a little bit clearer and cleaner understanding what we're doing. So we're going to loop through each hit, and we're going to do the exact same check here. If the hit collider is not null and it's not our game object, so I'll copy line 72 and paste it. If it is not null and it is not our game object, then we can continue walking. So can continue walking will get set to true. Otherwise, we'll just not ever set it to true and we won't be able to continue walking. This should do it. This is enough to get us walking. Let's go test it out. We'll jump over here, go find our ladybug again. And what we're gonna wanna do is turn this block off so that the block isn't there blocking it, or the block isn't there stopping the ladybug from walking over. Let's go find that brick, uncheck it, press play, and let's watch. Our ladybug should now walk to one edge, turn all the way around, bump into something, and turn around again. Let's see if that's the case. All right, it's loading up. There goes our ladybug, walking over to the edge and turning around. Let's go break these bricks too. So it's going to turn around until it runs out of bricks, and then it should walk all the way to the edge. There's nothing going on with the laser to interact with it right now. The raycast stops on it and ends there. And our laser blaster doesn't have a collider in it, so it should just walk right through, over to the edge, and then turn around. It's looking pretty good. And I think if I turn the if I adjust that platform a little bit so that it's slower, we can still kind of bug him out so that he'll walk on it and fall off because he won't stick to the platform yet. But so far, I think this is working pretty well. So I'm going to go into plastic and commit that our ladybug now doesn't fall off of ledges or doesn't walk off of ledges. So I'll save my scene. The ladybug no longer walks off edges, and check it in.